What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is Rob, your local problematic Leo, and today we're going to be talking about what is being hailed as the love child between Warframe and Destiny, aptly named the First Descendant. Now, this is a new free-to-play, cross-play looter shooter that just launched, so in case you guys are at all curious about how similar it is to Warframe, what are some key features that might appeal to Warframe players, as well as my 2 cents, be sure to stay tuned. But before we move along, I do need to warn you guys, the algorithm is a very hungry beast that is on the prowl, so feel free to feed it as you see fit. Now, I do need to warn you guys, I do have this roughly outlined, however this is going to be a little bit of a rambly video. We're going to go over my initial reactions, some familiar things, some things I think you guys are going to absolutely love about the game, and some things I think you're probably going to hate. So without ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. Now, I do need to give you guys a heads up. This game is a little bit of an uncanny valley. I don't know if you've seen it or seen any gameplay, but you can't not see what is going on here. It feels kind of like they didn't want to do their homework, so they took the first paragraph of one of their friends' essays, they took another paragraph from another friend, and they took the conclusions from like their last friend, and then they just shoved it all on the same page, changed the font and made it look all nice, and then submitted it, because this feels like they've literally ripped things from so many other games. I think the best way to kind of like show it off is like, it feels like they've taken Final Fantasy character models, tossed them in Overwatch outfits, used Warframe's modding system and some essences of their leveling systems, and then put it all to Destiny gameplay. That's really what it all boils down to. Now, before we move on from that, I did want to point that out for anybody who is curious about playing this. This does not play like Warframe. The movement system is definitely stifled. You've got a little grappling hook that you can kind of swing around here and there. The melee, however, is like little to non-existent. The abilities are not as spectacular as they are in Warframe, but they do definitely feel like they're in that Destiny zone. So if you enjoy Destiny, you're definitely gonna like this game. And now that I'm saying it out loud, it makes it sound like I don't like this game. But I actually really do. I feel like everything that they've kind of meshed together really does work, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, that looks like the main character of Final Fantasy 15 just slapped on the very front. Ooh, is that somebody in a diva outfit that looks kind of like Diva from Overwatch? Yeah, you can't unsee it. So, since we're talking about things that feel familiar, let's go ahead and jump into the things that I think are very, very similar when it comes to Warframe. Now, you heard me say it already. The gameplay doesn't feel Warframe-esque. However, all of the Descendants are basically like Warframe. So the Descendants are the characters that you pick up in game. They level up just like you would level up a Warframe. They gain their first set of abilities, then as they go higher and higher in levels, their abilities get more and more powerful. Now, the interesting thing about this as well is they don't just have the base character. It's weird because in Warframe they're Warframes. Here they're like people, and they're people you interact with, so it's strange. However, there are ultimate versions of these characters which are very metallic and very, very pretty model-like, so it almost feels like they've got primes. The only difference between the base model and the prime model is, or not the prime model, the ultimate model, I'm sorry, I'm getting them mixed up, is that I believe that there are some mods that only can fit in the ultimate model. So it kind of changes up some builds there. However, the core of it is the same. Literally, when you open up the modification window, you have polarities, you have mod points that you can spend, and each of the individual mods that you put in, they can all be leveled up with a pseudo-endo-like thing. Like point? Resource. That's the word that I was looking for. So it feels all very, very Warframe-esque. You can even put a catalyst. It's not called a catalyst, but I forget what it's called in game, but you can buy a thing or you can craft a thing that gives you more modification points for your Warframe, aka your Descendant. Now, weapons are going to be a little bit different, but they still have that same modding feature on them, except the great thing here is you don't have to level your weapon. You just get the weapon and then you get access to the mod panel. The way you level up your weapon is actually very similar to the Valence system in Warframe, where you can actually take the level of a higher level weapon and you can kind of bring that weapon that you've got down up to that weapon's level by combining them by using a resource. So I find that to be really, really funny. In addition to that, the way you craft your Descendants, or I don't know, give birth to them, it's weird because you're taking their DNA. But anyway, you have kind of like the blueprint, and then you have multiple different parts. Oh god, it sounds so bad. But you know, like you have multiple different parts of that Descendant, and you can go ahead and smash them together and go ahead and craft your Descendant. It's a person. You're crafting a person. It's weird. They're all alive. You also, when you craft them, you also have wait times on their builds, exactly like you would in Warframe. So there's just so much similarity that I think it's kind of crazy. Now, let's move on to the things that I think you're gonna like, because like I said, that is the big chunk that they have taken from Warframe. I mean, polarities and everything. It's kind of crazy. But we're going to move into the things that I think are a little bit different, but I think that you'll like as well. They have these really big Colossi fights, which is not something that we necessarily get in Warframe. But they're easy to jump into and jump out of. The Colossi fights will actually give you a breakdown of all of the different parts you can break off of the Colossi, weak spots and things like that. It'll even give you kind of like weaknesses and resistances off to the side as you load in, so you kind of know what to expect. Is it as you load in, or is it before you load in? It's somewhere there. But they've got those big Colossi fights, which I just think that Warframe is missing, and it's kind of like thrilling when you go ahead and play them. The cool thing about all of this too is when I guess you talk about Colossi fights, all of the resources that drop for your Descendants and your weapons, you can actually look them up. There's actually a little tool like on the side where you can hover over a resource, you press a button, and it'll tell you all of the different places that you can get that resource. So it's a very, very transparent as to where you need to go in order to achieve your goals. And it's a lot clearer than I think that they do in Warframe. Now, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Another thing that I think you guys are going to love is you don't have to level and forma weapons. It's one of the things that I absolutely loved in Anthem. I loved it in Destiny, because I feel like a lot of the time we spend in Warframe like leveling and forming weapons. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm sure that there is going to be some sort of resource they can use to change polarities in weapons. I have not found that yet, but I'm sure it's going to be there because, you know, you can monetize it, so why not? But I don't see that there's any kind of like way that you're going to need to level it. So you're probably just going to apply that modifier if it exists. I haven't gotten that far into the game. But I don't think you're going to have to level the weapon. You're just going to have to fuse the weapon, which is, I feel like, is a lot simpler. The other thing, when it comes to Warframe, we're always worried about loot, right? So there's actually a lost and found feature in your mailbox. So what you can do is if there's anything that's like important that you did not get to pick up from the mission, it'll actually go ahead and shoot it into your mailbox, which is really, really nice. And the last little bit that I absolutely love about this game is the fast travel. Now, I need to point this out because my computer is a little bit on the slower side. Well, it's not slower, it's just old. And I always am like worried about load times. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to work out for console. I can only speak to my old ass computer. But you can go ahead and fast travel between zones because the zones are small and easily traversable, but to bounce between them, you just have to fast travel, and it gets you where you need to go in pretty fast for an old system. Now, those are the things that I think you guys will really, really enjoy. There's actually a lot of other things that I find to be really, really fun in this game, and if you guys are currently playing it, go ahead and leave that down in the comments below so that other people can kind of like peruse around and see what goodness is there. However, Oh, I feel bad leaving this on things you'll probably hate. I do have to say one of the things I hate about this game. I hated it about, what is it called? Diablo? All of the Diablos. Loot management. Look, you can hoard so much stuff in Warframe, and I'm a hoarder. I literally keep multiple copies of Dex weapons from all of the anniversary events, just because I want to have them and keep them there. That's not something that you can necessarily do in the Descendant. You are going to have to be breaking things down for materials constantly in order to keep your inventory light. Now, I mentioned this a little bit earlier when it comes to movement. There is no bullet jumping in here. I have tried. I remapped my keys just so that everything would feel a little bit more similar to Warframe. But the closest thing you've got is a grappling hook. And I mean, you can swing around in different directions with it. You can kind of propel yourself forward with it a little bit here and there. But it's definitely no bullet jumping. There's no wall latching. It feels kind of like Destiny, if I'm going to be completely honest with you when it comes down to that. And that's also the painful part, is like there's no cool melee system that's attached to any of this. It's literally just like a punch. You can, however, use your grappling hook to grapple onto an enemy Valkyrie style, and then as you get out of it, you just melee punch them, which is pretty damn fun if I do say so myself. Now, the other thing I have to mention about this game is because it is a free-to-play game, and Warframe is pretty good about being not the worst when it comes to pricing. However, I do have to say the Descendant feels kind of pricey. It feels kind of pricey for like the customizations that you have, for some of the resources. Like, listen, I'm not going to be putting in a reactor or a catalyst on my Warframe or Descendant anytime soon unless I can craft it myself. Because I was looking at the price in game and I was like, that is an exorbitant amount for what this is gonna do, especially if I end up getting an ultimate version later down the line, right? Like, it just feels like a little bit of a waste. The other thing I do need to point out when it comes to this expensiveness is you don't have palettes for customization, but you can buy paints. Now, you do get a good preview screen to kind of like see, you know what I mean, what you're getting yourself into when you're gonna buy paints. And keep in mind, this is all paid currency. This is not currency you can currently earn in-game. But yeah, I don't think it's something that you can earn in-game. But your paints, there's a quantity of them. So when you paint a thing and you apply the paint, it consumes the paint. It's not like the palette system in Warframe where you can kind of like change your colors on the fly. It's one of those like, I hope you like it, because unless you pay for it, you're not going to be able to change it, you know? And that definitely sucks when it comes to the game. So those are the things I hate. So the last thing that you're going to hate if you play the game at all is Jeremy. Just Jeremy. We all hate Jeremy. Hashtag we hate Jeremy. I'm just putting that out there. You won't get it unless you've actually played the game yourself. But once you do, you'll meet him pretty quick on. And you'll just be like, I don't like you. And I don't think there's any redemption arc. He's just terrible. So that about does it for me and my feelings towards the Descendant. I want to keep saying the Descendants, like multiple, but apparently it's just one, even though we can craft multiple of them. Ooh, and there are also slots. I forgot to say that. There's slots for Descendants, kind of like Warframe slots. But that about does it for my feelings on them. I do have to say, overall, I'm quite enjoying myself in the game. I keep saying that it feels like Destiny gameplay, and that's the closest that I can say for it, but for some reason there's something in my head, and I don't know if you guys remember the game, but there was a game that was tied to a sci-fi TV show called Defiant, or The Defiant, something like that along those lines, and for some reason it resounds in my head and says, it feels like Defiance. Ooh, it's Defiance, isn't it? Not Defiant. It feels like Defiance. I can't tell you whether that's true because I haven't played that game in a long time, but there's just something in my bone that says that. Regardless, leave your feelings down in the comment section below. And that about does it for me for now. So as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Also, let me know if you want me to do more the Descendants kind of stuff. Put that down there as well.